All right, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Integrity Racing Show. I'm your host, Todd Thomas. We're joined tonight by League Administrator and owner Jacob Fife, and also a longtime veteran of the Integrity Racing League, Cody Smith. A lot to talk about tonight as we get you set for a couple of weeks before our next races. We've got a recap of the Sonoma race that occurred last night, and then the All-In Truck Series just got finished at Sonoma. But we are here with Cody Smith, who again is a longtime veteran of the league. Cody, welcome to the show, and tell us a little bit about yourself, how you got involved in iRacing and into the Integrity Racing League.
Yeah, first of all, thanks for having me. iRacing as a whole, I had heard about it online. I think I'd seen some stuff about Dale Jr. talking about it. Had really wanted to get into it for a long time. Never really had the computer or the equipment or really the financial ability to do it until a few years ago. I believe, I don't know, 2014, 2013 maybe is when I started on iRacing. And then I believe in 2015, I was just kind of decided it'd be fun to get in the league, and I was looking around in the forums and saw Integrity was recruiting some new members, and I applied, and yeah, I guess the rest is history.
All right, and one of the things that I think is really cool about this avenue is we maybe get to learn about drivers a little bit more than just on the racetrack. Tell everybody that's a little bit about yourself, what you kind of do, and what Cody Smith does other than iRacing.
The answer would be not a whole lot. I work a lot. I'm a freight broker at a small company called Global Trans. I work in sales. It's not too bad, but yeah. And then I live about a half hour north of Cincinnati, Ohio, real close to Kings Island, if anyone's ever heard of that. I kind of spend a lot of my free time on iRacing. I'm very outdoorsy. I like to hunt and fish, stuff like that. And then I pretty much watch any sport, football, basketball, baseball mainly, and racing. It's kind of my interest and my hobbies. Other than that, not a whole lot going on in my life.
Okay, so tell us some of your favorite tracks. What's the one or two tracks on iRacing that you enjoy driving the most, and maybe one or two tracks that you seem to struggle with a little bit?
I believe my favorite track would have to be the one we just raced on in the truck series, Kentucky. It's actually the closest track to me, and it just happens to be. I think it's my best track. Ironically, I don't know why.
I could tell tonight, by the way.
Yeah, so that's, like I said, that's ironic. Somewhere I don't like, not a huge, let's correct that. I enjoy road racing. I'm not great at it. I did a lot better last night than what I expected to do, so maybe I'm getting better. Who knows? I'm horrible at Pocono. Hate that place. Michigan, I know that's your favorite, Todd. I'm bad there too. There seems to be more bad tracks than good. I'm trying to think, where did I race? I raced Fayash for the lead for like 60 laps at New Hampshire, so that was a lot of fun last year. So I do like that track too. But
well, you've had a good season so far this year, ranking somewhere in the top 10 in points. You've just been consistently plugging along. What do you think's been the key for your success for you this year? You don't have a win yet, but as we're going to look at the chase standings a little bit later, you've put yourself in a solid position.
Yeah, I seem to keep getting decent finishes. I think the key is survival a lot of times. I know my bad finishes are races where I got crashed, either by my own doing or someone else's. Survival's huge. I seem to have anywhere from 8th to 15th place car pretty much everywhere we go. Don't really have that top 5 speed at very many tracks, which can be kind of frustrating. But yeah, it's been a really good season, and hopefully we can keep it going.
All right, so thanks for Cody joining us on the show tonight. We're going to keep him in the conversation as best as we can. But let's go ahead and turn our attention and look back a little bit to the race that just completed a little less than 24 hours ago at Sonoma. Kristen Schallner is the big winner. I think that's three in a row unofficially for Christian after one was taken away from him at Dover. David Radler finished as second, so a strong run. I see that before the show I checked out that Christian was actually running in third in the in-pass race tonight. So it's good to see him doing well and representing the league in that manner. David Radler second, Adam de Blasio and the Eric de Blasio. The de Blasio brothers neck and neck once again for the second straight week. So I know that's exciting for Eric to get a good finish right up there alongside his brother. Brad Patton fifth. Strong run for Brad. That rounds off your lead lap. Andrew Fayesh finishes sixth. Jacob Fife, always pretty strong here at Sonoma, finishes seventh. Guillermo Alvarez eighth. Cody Smith, we just mentioned that he had a good run and he finishes ninth. And Lance, who's definitely a road course, I don't want to say specialist, but somebody that's always a little bit stronger on the road course, rounds out the top 10. So another race with no cautions, Jacob. That's the good news. And then some strong running, and then maybe an unfortunate incident towards the end of the race that had a major impact on the finish.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it makes my day a lot easier when I don't have to go through cautions or hand down suspensions or go through any of that stuff. All in all, I think the race went pretty well last night. There was a couple bumps along the way, as to be expected. Sonoma is a very technical course, so you're going to have times when you're going to go off course or over brake or run in the back of somebody. And that happened a couple times the other night. I've had that happen to me at one point during the night. And then, the game changer of the night was there was contract between Busa and another driver, and they, that basically changed the complexion. I think last night was a two-horse race for sure. Both Busa and Challoner were hands down the top two. I think they're proving that in the in-pass race tonight, actually. I think they're both towards the front, I think second and third, something like that. So, I don't think anybody else had anything for them, but it's why you race. Things happen sometimes that are out of your control, and that's what happened. And excuse me. And you kind of have to move on from it. Luckily, both Cody and I had a good night last night, and we were able to race together a lot during the course of the event, and it was definitely good to see some different strategies play out, and different ways to go about racing at a road course, because it's all back in the driver's hands, really.
And some of us only got to turn 4 laps and finish dead last. But Cody, turning our attention to you, you got a top 10 finish like you mentioned earlier. So tell us a little bit about your race and what happened to you Monday night at Sonoma.
Yeah, I will take a top 10 on any road course in any series at any time. Yeah, it's probably got to be the best road course race, complete road course race I've run in my life. From start to finish, didn't really make a whole lot of mistakes. Made a few mistakes, but I don't know if that cost me a couple spots or not. I was running up as high as 6th, I believe, at one point, which is pretty awesome. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I know me and Jacob had a scary moment there somewhere in the middle of the race. Jacob took a little bit of a ride. But everything was good there, and Jacob ended up getting back by me. And yeah, like I said, a 9th is cannot complain at all.
All right, so that wraps up Sonoma. Again, no cautions at Sonoma, so everybody's free from that. So that's back-to-back weeks with no cautions. So make sure you update yourself on the caution count, because we're going to go with the off week. We're going to go basically a full month without a single driver being charged a caution in the Integrity Racing League. I think that's going to be a record of some capacity. So everybody take advantage of that and get ready as we come back to Loudon in 2 weeks. So that wraps up Sonoma 55 laps around that joint. Hopefully, glad we didn't do 110. But let's go ahead and transition to the chase standings after the race at Sonoma. We've got an interesting dynamic here as Challoner and Busa seem to take over the series, so to speak. Now, we haven't had a chase-eligible winner in quite some time. I believe I might be the most recent chase-eligible winner, and that was at Kansas. So it's totally shifted the dynamic of the regular season. Jay Heisman leads the non-winners in points, 98 points ahead. Cody Smith right there, only 3 points back, 95 points clear of the cutoff. Jacob Fife there, 74 points. Josh Campbell, Brandon Kirkman, and Eric DeBlasio right around that middle tier where they're trying to solidify their spot maybe a little bit more. And then you got an interesting chase here where you got Brandon Coppinger, Caleb Eisenhower, Alan Pajari, William Dunn, Nick Tarabuck, Greg Trigo, and Christopher Schitzer all kind of jumbled up within 30 points. Cody, you've kind of solidified yourself a little bit. You're sitting there, it looks like 95 points to the good. Are you comfortable where you sit for the rest of the regular season?
Yes and no. There's still 10 races left. And I've slipped a little bit the last few races, the last 2 races before Sonoma. But yeah, I mean, the 95 point cushion is nice. But like I said, with 10 races left, you have 3 or 4 bad races, you find yourself in trouble again. So yeah, just got to keep at it, keep getting solid finishes, and it won't take top 5s every week, but if I can finish solid top 15s, top 10s, obviously sitting in a pretty good spot for the chase.
Arden, Jacob, for you, you're actually only 21 points behind Cody, so you're 74 points to the good. But last year we had quite a few. I think we had something like 10 or 11 winners in the regular season that locked up a spot. And as of right now, we only have 6. And with Challoner and Busa kind of just keep on taking wins away from everyone, that's definitely going to change the dynamic where we're going to have a little bit more points racing this season.
Yeah, I think that's definitely the trend that you're going to start seeing here through the next few weeks, I would imagine. Which that helps me, to be perfectly honest. For the most part, I haven't really even sniffed a win this year. I've been further up in some places than others. I'm kind of like Cody, to be perfectly honest. There's some tracks that will suit me a little bit better than others, but when you have the Booses and the Challoners who are showing up consistently now, it's basically a points race to a certain extent. And then once you get in the chase, if you can sneak a win or able to get an advantage where you can, then you take it. So it definitely is going to be a little bit different from last year, where we had so many different winners that somebody like myself, and I think Cody was once again the other person I was battling with, we were back and forth of whether we would even make the chase or not. And we had both had really solid years last year in terms of finishing well. And I think we were both top 5 or top 10 in points, actual point standings, but just didn't have a win. So definitely going to be different mindset you have to take. I think you're going to have to be consistent now. If you look at the 6 or 7 drivers who are just barely in or just barely outside the cut line, that has to be their focus. Obviously, most of the guys there might have a chance to win, but it really is going to be about points racing and outdoing the guys who are around you in points.
All right, so let's actually go ahead and turn our attention to the Rookie of the Year standings for the Shane Ashmore Rookie of the Year Cup. Brad Patton still maintains his points lead in the Rookie of the Year standings, but we've got a little bit of a breakaway here amongst the top 4. Nick Tarabuck in second, only 10 points back. Brandon Coppinger in third, 14 points back, and Caleb Eisenhower 16 points back. But as we continue to go forward, the interesting part is going to be is once the drop week starts to solidify a little bit more. Yes, Brad only has a 10-point lead over Nick and Brandon there, but he does have 2 fewer starts. So the drop weeks are going to be a little bit more forgiving to him. But Caleb Eisenhower only has 12 starts. So definitely a good running up there in the top 4. And you combine those with the in-pass drivers that we've kind of had enter the league with Christian Challoner and a few other guys that have joined, David Radler, that are new to the league. Cody, it's definitely made maybe the 2017 season maybe the toughest league season we've had so far.
Yeah, I'd certainly agree with that. Even last year I thought this league was stout, but I think we just got better, especially at the top. But yeah, those guys are. It amazes me every week how much better they are than everyone else. I mean, I don't know how other way to put it when they're on the same set, on the same track, same everything. I don't understand it completely, but it's but it's fun, and it's a fun challenge to try to race against them. It's cool to see where you stack up against those guys, and it's cool to see where those guys actually are and what sets them apart from the rest of the service.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I'd agree with that. I hope everybody knows I'm not trying to say that having those in-pass guys is a negative for the league. I think it's great to run around those guys and get to see what they do on a nightly basis and coming in every Monday night. So we definitely enjoy running around with those guys because they're usually also very clean drivers, and that's the most important thing. But we do have a little bit of a league announcement period here set up. Jacob, next week is the July 4th holiday on Tuesday. July 3rd on Monday night. And so Integrity Racing League has made a little bit of a modification to the schedule. So why don't you tell everybody about that?
Yeah, so obviously the next 2 days for both the Cup Series and the Truck Series, Monday and Tuesday night, fall right on the July 4th holiday. So basically all we did is switch off weeks around. Obviously, normally would be at Daytona, but our main focus really is, we want you to spend time with your family, spend time, if you have a vacation trip, plan for the weekend or whatever you may have going on. We want you to enjoy doing that instead of trying to worry about, coming back for, this. Because there's more things more important than just doing this on Monday or Tuesday nights, whichever you prefer. So what we're going to do is, like I said, switch off weeks. What would have been our next off week would have been August 28th and 29th. So that's basically, I think the off week for the Truck Series is switched around a little differently, so it's not the same. But for the Cup Series, the Daytona race is going to be on August 28th. That would have been an off week. But now you get your off week Monday night, and then from here to the end of the season, it's every single week we'll have a race. So just kind of keep that in mind as well. Things will be kind of churning along, and before you know it, we'll be right into the end of the regular season and working our way into the chase to see who makes it to race for a championship. So circle the date. August 28th is the Daytona race, is when we'll have it. I believe that's really, it's only 2 or 3 weeks before the end of the regular season, as September, I want to say it's my birthday, September 12th or somewhere in there is when our Richmond race is going to be. So only 1 or 2 weeks. So that'll play a much bigger role in who makes it into the chase and who doesn't as we get to that point in the season. So just keep that in mind. Enjoy your time off during the July 4th weekend. And hopefully we'll see you back in 2 weeks.
All right, so actually moving that Daytona race, which is kind of a free-for-all crapshoot kind of a race, should add a little bit of a different dynamic to it. And as Jacob kind of alluded to there, it might be a couple of drivers that are maybe on the outside looking in, their last grasp chance to try to make their way into the chase. So it should make the Daytona race even a little bit more competitive. And then we've got the Talladega race that ends up being right around one of the cutoffs in the playoffs. So the restrictor play races are definitely going to play a role throughout the rest of the season. And my mistake here, I accidentally forgot to update everyone on the clean driver. We haven't done that in a few weeks. Greg Trigo leads the way there with 78 laps per incident. Only 25 incidents all season long for Greg, despite 13 starts and logging 1,952 laps so far. Guillermo Alvarez is in second there. Kent Weatherall, the defending champion of the Allen Rolls Cleanest Driver Award standings, is there in third. And I'm trying to look because I know it's an important statistic for Jay Heisman. Yes, it looks like Jay Heisman still leads the way in the Integrity Racing League in laps completed. He's completed 2,294 laps so far this season. So he leads the way in that regard, but he sits fifth in the clean driver standings. Defending champion Kent Weatherall third, Alan Bajari fourth, Jacob Fife sixth, and Matt Boosin seventh. So we definitely wanted to update everyone on that before we got started. But let's go ahead and shift gears. Go ahead, Jacob.
Real quick there, Todd. The other thing I want to mention, and I mentioned it in the recap for the race, the road course races, we're going to do something a little different as it relates to the clean driver. And I didn't quite pay attention to see if Adam had put it up there or not. But we're going to cap the incidents for the clean driver award on road course races at 14. So if you go over that point, then it'll be capped at 14 incidents. The calculations will be made at the end of the season, so there'll be a note to the side of the spreadsheet that says, so and so had blank amount of incidents and on that race, and so that many will be deducted at the end of the season, because I don't want Adam to do more work than he has to do. So that's the simplest way of going about it without making him have to do constant adjustments every single week, because he does this voluntarily and we greatly appreciate it. So just pay attention. If you have questions, ask me about it. And that's what we'll do for both Sonoma and Watkins Glen. So if you get over 14 incidents, as it relates to the clean driver award, 14 will be the cap that we do on that. And then for Sonoma, we only had 4 people who went over. So it's not as if it's a big issue, but it's something I wanted to make sure everybody was on the same page on in case they had questions when it gets time to hand out awards later in the year.
And I believe I might have been one of those 4 drivers to go over 14 despite only completing 4 laps. So let's move away from Sonoma and on to the Truck Series and talk about the All-In Truck Series tonight in Kentucky. Jacob 5 finally shakes off the Truck Series monkey off of his
confetti?
I don't have any confetti, sorry.
Just pick it up off the floor and throw it. It's okay.
I can do that. No, let's not do that. Jacob 5 does not spin out twice and calls 2 cautions in the Truck Series tonight and actually wins the race when he does that. Maxime Theriault finishes second, 2.5 seconds roughly back. Guillermo Alvarez third. Cody Smith fourth. Joe Slamma fifth. Before we get to the big winner, Cody, from talking to you in pre-race, you were able to hang with Jacob a little bit and maybe had a little bit of trouble there on pit road.
Yeah, I can't help but think that I threw this one away. I think I qualified 5th-ish. It took me the whole first run to get to the lead. I believe I led like 6 laps before I pitted. I slid through my box, had to back up, stopped. I was too far to the right, had to move over. So I'm sure I lost at least 3, 4, 5 seconds, which I don't think I lost the race by much more than that, if any more than that. So I don't know, and that could have been huge if I had been in front of Jacob, because I was right on his tailgate the whole last run really, and never really could get around him. But yeah, that was a lot of fun. Like I said earlier, it's probably my favorite track on the service. So yeah, 4th was probably actually the worst I possibly could have finished. So I managed to do as bad as I as I possibly could have with kind of the night I had. But yeah, all in all, it was good, a lot of fun, and it was a good race.
All right, and so let's get to victory lane and our race winner, Jacob 5. Jacob, talk us through the race and how happy are you to get your first win of the 2017 season?
Well, very happy to begin with, and Cody's absolutely right. He had one of the best cars out there, or trucks, excuse me. Basically the race evolved into strategy. Luckily, I was halfway paying attention. Around lap 40 or 45, I realized that you could make it a one-stop race. So we're all kind of together and kind of, logging laps to a certain extent. And as soon as I realized that, I started clutching it to try to save as much before the first pit stop, to stretch it as far as I could to kind of set me up for the second pit stop. But it's very, very hard to lead and save gas at the same time. So I believe Chuck Sweeting and Guillermo both got out ahead of us once we made our pit stops. So we kind of had to catch up a little bit. Cody had a very great truck, and I was almost certain could pass me whenever he wanted to. And I thought we were really going to have a race out of it. There was great racing, no cautions, and just excited that the strategy kind of played out as the race went along. There were some times where I tried to find as much time to save as I could, and as usual, or the cliche with it is, the more you save, it seems like the faster you end up going. I was able to roll the corners a lot better. I wasn't overdriving it. So definitely excited about the win. enjoyed racing tonight. There was a lot of good drivers out on the track tonight, who all of them had a chance to win. Maxime, who finished second, really somewhat out of nowhere, came through the field and got to second right within the last 10 laps. So if the race was much longer, I definitely would have had my hands full with him. But great race tonight. I enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun, and looking forward to getting back to it in 2 weeks.
All right, and so let's go ahead and update everyone on the truck standings. And I've kind of put Jacob's feet to the fire and told him we need to get a chase grid ready for the next show so that we can update everybody on that. As there's only about 8 weeks before the Truck Series playoffs begin, so we need to update everybody on where everybody stands for that. James Hudson, go ahead, Jacob.
I do have who is in the chase right now. Since you asked me about it pre-show, I kind of swirled that together real quick. If you want to go through the standings, I'll let you do that, and then I can update you on who's actually in the chase. So,
all right, so I'll put the standings up here on screen, and you can go ahead and give us that information.
Yeah. So basically, the way the chase works for the Truck Series is you have to have 9 minimum starts, which the majority guys who are competing for the series do. And then just like the chase, wins come first once you meet the minimum, and then it's points drivers after that. So based on the standings that you see up on the screen there, you're going to have Guillermo has a win. I obviously won tonight, so that locks me in basically. Lance Jennels, who's in 4th, would be locked in. Then you have Matt Wright has a win, so he's locked in. And then you have Greg Trago, who's a little further down there in 12th, but he has the minimum 9 starts, and he won in Atlanta. So that would lock him into the field. Then from there, you would go for points, as the rest of the guys who may or may not have a win don't have the minimum starts. So Hudson is obviously leading the points right now, so he's safe. Randy, who's in 5th, is doing a great job this season, logging solid finishes. He would be in the chase. Brian Terry would be in the chase there at 7th. Cody, who had a solid run tonight, would be in the chase. And then right now, Joshua Buckley would be the last guy in 10th. So yeah, basically your top 10 essentially was what it looks like, except for Greg. So you would switch Brendan and Greg out, and basically you'd have the chase as of right now. As you can see there, Daniel Holloway is about 30 points back from Josh for that last spot in the chase, and there's 10 races to go, so there's still plenty of time to either get your minimum or close in the gap to get in the chase. And there's a lot of guys who definitely have the talent to do that. As you look a little further back, you'll see where Brandon Six has been running and has a minimum. Maxime had a great run tonight, will be a good example. Caleb Eisenhower would be another great example of that as well. So they can definitely have the speed to get in. And like I said, I believe it's either 8 or 10 races left before we hit the end of the regular season. It's going to shape up to be an interesting chase as we move into the playoff season.
All right, so a little bit of a screen change there. It's backfired on me a little bit. But obviously the major caveat to all of that discussion as we highlight this number right here is that Brendan Kohler only has 7 starts on the season, despite having four wins in those 7 starts. So if Brendan Kohler completes 2 more races in the Truck Series, he'll lock himself in and put himself in and would take a spot away from Joshua Buckley. So that's something to keep an eye on. Like I said, we're going to try to have an actual chase grid ready for you next week. Maybe a little bit more homework for Adam to do on the off week. Talking about the off week, we actually won't be here to do the Integrity Racing show next Tuesday night. I know everybody's disappointed, but it's July 4th, and I'm sure Jacob would rather go and hang out with his family, and I will be about 8 hours north of San Juan, Puerto Rico that night on a cruise ship, and I will be drunk and won't be hosting this show.
That might bring more ratings at times. You never know.
Tequila makes my clothes fall off. So we won't be hosting the show next week, and so we won't have an opportunity unless we do it tonight to look forward to the next week's races. And next week, after Daytona, the Cup Series goes to Kentucky. So Cody, you like Kentucky. I've actually never had the chance to drive Kentucky in the Cup car because it's always fallen on the week of my vacation, and so I've missed every Integrity Racing League race at Kentucky as well as every NIS race at Kentucky. So you said it's one of your favorite tracks. Take us a lap around that place in the Cup car.
Yeah. As it used to be in real life, it is bumpy. Maybe that's why I'm good at it. It kind of, you're off the throttle a lot in the center of corner. It eats tires a lot. Other than that, I don't know why I'm good. You kind of have to really arc the corners. Like I said, you want to let it roll through the corners, roll through the bumps, and then ease onto the throttle because you can get real loose off of both corners really. But yeah, the track's a lot of fun. I wish more lines would come in a little better than they do. Maybe they will with the new service model update. I doubt it though. But yeah, like I said, I've said 4 times now. I think it's my favorite track on the circuit. So and it's my home track. So yeah, I hope to definitely run up front, depending on, I guess, who shows up, fast guys wise. But yeah, hopefully looking for a top 5, and I think I finished second there last year. So yeah, we're looking forward to it.
All right, and Jacob, I'm actually not sure where the Truck Series go for their next race in a couple of weeks. So why don't you let us know that information?
That's a great question, Todd.
Well, let me look it up.
Let's get our crack research team out.
We're going to the Truck Series on July 11th. We're going to Five Flag Speedway.
There we go. We're going to do a little short track racing. 195 laps. Should be a lot of fun. We'll do, I believe that's going to be a race that doesn't normally have a truck setup. I could be wrong. I haven't checked yet. But we'll have, during the off week, we'll have a setup put out so everybody will have that available to them and they can practice on it and kind of get used to it. Like I said, should be a fun race. We try to throw a couple little curveballs for you guys during the course of the year. Five Flags, I believe, is a track everyone should have. So, or as a base content track is what we try to do. So, come on out to that race. It should be a lot of fun. I like to do a little short track racing when we get the chance. So, should be a fun night.
All right, I'm glad that you mentioned it's a free track because I did not know that, and I wouldn't have known that I had it. So that'll be an excellent opportunity. I'm actually, we'll double check that and make sure that information gets out to everybody. I'm actually looking forward to that. Five Flags is a new track that I haven't turned a lap on, so going to check that out would be a pretty cool event. So thanks for joining us here for the Integrity Racing Show. We'll be back in 2 weeks where we'll recap the Cup Series at Kentucky as well as that Truck Series race at Five Flag Speedway. So thanks for joining us tonight. We'll see you here in 2 weeks. Have a good night, everybody.